fucked up how taboo it can be for founders, which is, you know, what you call the dark side of entrepreneurship, right? Like this idea that, you know, founders are meant to be these martyr figures, sacrifice absolutely everything and like literally live with zero balance, you know, for the pursuit of this dream. We are putting so much on the line. We're sacrificing so much for ideas. You'll have a lot of insight that could help a lot of founders that are just getting started with this like scrappy, overly scrappy mentality.
And I think most get into it with a dream, and it always starts off the fairy tale story of, I'm going to become, you know, just like the kids, a superhero. I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And it's unlike any other era or other time that we've ever lived in where we are idolizing these founders as if they're superstars. You know, it's one of the biggest pump and dump scams as you can, right? You get a founder, you feed him ramen and Red Bull, you kill him, he's exhausted, him, and you kick him to the curb, they take over, they go IPO, cash out, and your dream, and you are left to the side. It's not by accident, and it's not one person. There's a cultural movement that is now starting to wake up to that. And that even continues to the way that founders are fundraising. There's just innovation across the board, and not only more attention, exposure, and more awareness into just mental health in general, but also awareness in some of these variables that are contributing to that major mental health. And in our case, it's entrepreneurship. But yeah, I think generally there is a cultural component to this. And as I move into this coach role, I am starting to see how important it is for me and entrepreneurs that I invest in or I align with or I mentor, whatever it is, understand the severe risks. Because in my case, the reality of my upbringing, single mother, 9 children, all the adversity I had to deal with. I grew up in Chicago. Winters were cold. Food was scarce. We didn't have much. One thing I did have was this American dream that with hard work and education, you could get anything, right? And that really stuck to me. It's something I truly believed in. And I think that, if we're talking larger, is also something we're losing. You and I were talking earlier about I'm a proud Greek immigrant. You're a proud Mexican, Spanish. And that's okay. I think everybody's okay to be proud of where you come from. And I don't think that's something that should be lost. But I was able to leverage some of those things that my adversity, you know, my culture was a motivator to me. I was proud to be Greek. You know, when you don't have much growing up, you don't have much to be proud of.
This was something, and I think you and I agree a lot, as a tiny guy, right? Like you like me, starting off, you're barely raising your first, $1 million. You've never seen $1 million in the bank. I've seen this time and time again. This is literally one of my biggest fears in life, that I see so many founders get fucked because you start to realize that more money doesn't solve your problems, that now you have even more expectations and weight and people that you owe shit to, and you slowly but surely start losing grasp with your dreams and the control of those dreams. So it's always been a really big fear
because
of
your
mine.
Legacy, right? And it's something so personal. I mean, this story, my first company, was a culmination of my experience with meeting my father for the first time, introduced to my culture in Greece. I went there for the first time. And so all these different elements, just a couple, but it was my name, my legacy, my first venture. And so when you wrap that up in this culture and this kind of venture world and all these different things, you're disposable, but your whole being is attached to that. And so one thing that I think is relevant to this, and one thing that I can now live to tell the story coming out of my first exit, selling my first company. And the problem with that first company is, you have built a lightning in the bottle. And then when you mix your personal legacy, when I got married, it was Loumis legacy. So I'm always about my legacy. And I was always thinking about the same things you're thinking of. You tie yourself to these entities, and when you're removed or closes or bankrupt, whatever happens, you almost feel part of that. Like you go down with the ship. Like if that dies, you die, quite literally and figuratively. If you haven't had those thoughts, I don't think that you truly understand the risk associated with entrepreneurship. And business in general humbles you. So if you're somebody that's been handed a company or handed money to start the company, whatever it is, and you go through the process of starting, you will be humbled through that process if you're actually leading it and growing and operating. So I do think that there's a benefit to this, or a positive side, business and entrepreneurship. There's this realness to it that really gives you this purpose in life, or understand the purpose in life. But also, I think that, there's so much, obviously, at cost associated with that. And most times, and we just look at the numbers, most times the risks outweigh the reward.
I think where you and I are very big advocates is what happens when you actually break through, right? Like you're able to actually find people that believe you, give you the backing. And I think that some of the biggest investors that I have, and but also mentors, are really big advocates of like, make sure that you don't have any worries about your life so that you can focus on the business. I can't even tell you how many fucking times I went to sleep just fearing for my life, bro, because I couldn't afford my fucking credit card bills. And I willingly was able to struggle and sacrifice because I'm building my fucking dreams. I'm willing to do it, but I'm fucking going to sleep fearing what the fuck is going to happen when the rent is due on Tuesday. You know what I'm saying? Every founder should be paying themselves a livable wage and then some so that you can actually go and decompress. Go on a fucking vacation for once. How many founders? I didn't take a vacation for 6 fucking years, right? Because I couldn't even afford to pay rent. But when I was able to, and I was like, damn, bro, like I've been so in the fucking grind of this, I've never even taken a fucking moment to be proud of my accomplishments. I've never been taking a fucking time to spend real quality time with my wife in a while. And it's really affected my quality of life. It's really affected all the decision making that I do about my business. It's really fucking up the business because I haven't had these moments of clarity because I felt like I have to fucking struggle, that I have to be a martyr, that I have to fucking like live below my means. I think that's fucking bullshit. And I want to hear you.
I think that's an extremely important point, and this is one of which you and I suffered, right? You talk about your wife. I always tell people if it wasn't for my wife, I'd be behind a dumpster. So, it's, she is, giving me stability, not to get sappy here, but she really gave me this concept of home. Growing up, I didn't really have the concept, and she was the first one that gave me there. And that in itself gave me a foundation that you need, going back to why you need to take care of yourself, why you need to take care of your bills. You need to have the stability. If you have chaos every day in your world, right? There's terror, panic attacks. People don't know what that is. People don't know what crippling anxiety is. Everybody has anxiety. That's our generation, unfortunately. There's a lot of the, soft ones out there, but the people that really understand what an anxiety attack is, it's crippling. You can't get up. You can't go to work. You're in a dark hole for 4 days. And sometimes people don't get out of that. And so the paying yourself is more than just, listen, and just like you said, the VCs, there's a lot of entrepreneurs that we could blame for ruining it for a lot of people too. For taking advantage, for stealing, for doing these things. And that's not to kind of paint a broad stroke on everybody. And thus, as a result of those bad actors, call it, everybody has to live on Red Bull and ramen and kill themselves, right? And so for me, going back to some of the learning lessons, if I didn't sell my first company, truthfully, and what I recognized after I did that, and I didn't make any money off that acquisition, I was able to, put ourselves in the best position. I personally forfeited it because it was just, it was before COVID. It was just, everything was crazy. I had to make sure the company was going to survive. The first time I sold it to TV personality Marcus Lemonis, billionaire, Camping World owner, very big personality, Shark Tank type figure. We did well, and he ended up buying the company. And when he bought the company, my role then evolved to president and part of the whole portfolio, along with my obviously other partners. And so I oversaw and I had a lot of exposure to kind of the inner workings, the retail side, the product side, the kind of the other things that he was working on. And so what I learned in that experience, for the first time, I took a salary. First time, that's when I learned about what a 401k is, health insurance. All these things. And then we're talking 4 years ago, 5 years ago, right? Not long ago. And I just was ramen and Red Bull and killing myself. And if that company ended up getting acquired, and let's just say it went down, I really can't honestly tell you if I would be here today. And for me, it's just, if you can avoid all that and give yourself the ability to be treated like a human, to understand. It's sad sometimes when I see, there was this lady, right? She was a service worker. I heard she was like 50 years old, breaking her back. She told me that she never got a massage before. And it just hurt me a little bit, because I'm like, you deserve one, It makes me tear up a little bit because and I got her a massage. I got her a massage because I'm like, it's such a, anyways.
No, I get you, bro. It's like, this is the conversations that you can't have with that many people, because a lot of people are afraid, or they don't even have control over that. And fuck, like, I didn't even have health insurance till like a year ago. And I was like, oh, I don't need health insurance. The fuck am I going to spend this much a month? Like, it's money that I would rather burn in Facebook ads. You know, like, why I got to go to the doctor? Like, I'm 30 and able. Like, I'm a walking heart attack by 40, but right now I'm 28. You know, I put in the business, and it's fucked up. It's a really fucked up expectation, I think, that is pulled culturally on the founders. And obviously, like, they sell it to you with this idealization of like, oh, you can be a fucking rock star, though. It's like, yeah, like, you're doing cocaine every fucking night. You're going to drop dead at 27.
The reality of it is, like, the fact that you're even having that much energy to ask for money or to ask for anything on something you built is in itself is the problem. You know, you're almost begging or this, and that's the cultural issue. When did it become that the founders are the servants, but on TV, the gods, and taking all the risk? And in the reality of it, and the numbers would back it, is 99.9 of them fail. And so they're kicked to the curb after going through this roller coaster. And 99.7 of them, you either hear the story or you don't hear the story. But let's just say it's not a happy ending.
These things are our creation. They're like our child, you know, like it's a very
It's
deep,
our identity.
Yeah, it's our identity. And I think a lot of founders don't think about those things when they're first taking and signing that term sheet that they first got, because they've never seen that amount of money. And it fuels and perpetuates this guilt.
That's the misconception. People see the headlines and they raise this and they think it's like going to your personal bank account. That's not the case. In most cases, it's ramen and Red Bull founder making $50,000 a year, all this money, but responsible. The guy that's responsible for all of that, the success, the failure, everything, that's also, you know, eating peanuts off the ground for dinner, you know, though that's why it's so extreme. But it's also important, don't get lost in the headlines. That's, you know, my story is still not done. You know, I have to deliver on my promise. I have to execute. I have to get to the end and go. And that is my main focus. And I just have to make sure that I have faith in my values and my culture and in God and all these things, because there's a lot more work to get done. And I could lose myself many more times, right? As Conor McGregor says, he's like, most people, you know, look at me and what I've been able to achieve and think I've lost myself, but I've actually found myself.
That's a great quote. To this point, I still have a lot of people in high school like the proverbial, like, oh, you've changed or this and that, you know? And yes, motherfucker, I have changed. I'm not supposed to stay the same I was 10 years ago in the fucking hood, you know? I, along my journey, found myself and realized what a hungry, empowered Latino can accomplish. And I want that for every other Latino, an entrepreneur for that matter, that hasn't found that yet. Because the journey to self is the most rewarding, but that's also where that mind switch happens that now makes you feel that you can conquer the world. And obviously the name of the show here is 1 in a billion. And it's not so much about like, you know, the perception could be optically that, oh, this motherfucker's so full of himself. You know, he's so far up his own ass, is like delusional. It's not about ego. It's about
you have
grounding.
to drink a little of your own Kool-Aid.
You
There's
have
there's a healthy amount of Kool-Aid you could be drinking, because you have to feed the beast and you have to live your truth. And that's what it is. You truly believe in what you're doing. And thus you have to, most times when I'm, you know, on social media, when I'm talking to myself, I'm not even talking to anybody else. I'm just posting it's like looking in the mirror. You're going to do it. You're great. You know, it's manifesting, right? And in positive reinforcement. When 90% of our lives, we were like, you're nothing, you're this, you're that. Negative reinforcement, it's a positive reinforcement. So yeah, there's a little delusion in it, but there's strategically delusional.
It's required because, you know, particularly my community or like Latinos, I was talking about this the other day. They said, look, we don't talk about the wins enough, so people never think we're win. In one of my fucking trigger words, bro, particularly in tech Twitter, is the word underestimated. Oh my fucking God, that gets me so angry. Particularly the fucking brown people that call each other underestimated. It gets me so fucking mad. Like, I would never want my fucking child to grow up in a world where somebody fucking calls him underestimated, particularly by the motherfuckers that look like him, bro. That gets me so fucking angry because, again, it perpetuates that fucking guilt and that lack of self-worth because, like, no, you need to believe that you can do it. You need to believe that you're meant for greatness. You need to believe that the good things in life are meant for you because that's the only fucking way you're going to work hard enough. Like, if you've never tasted success, you will never fucking work hard enough for it, bro. If you never put yourself in a position to buy yourself a nice watch or do something else for your wife or go out and experience the finest thing in his life, you will never fucking know how hard you have to work it to make that shit a lifestyle forever, bro. Because it's going to take so fucking much effort and sacrifice to get there. But if you create these weaklings off the bat because you're castrating them before they even get started with these words that just keep them as lemmings for the rest of their lives is such a fucking waste of human potential. It's like, I need to fucking prove to the world that somebody like me can do it, because it's not for the people that will hate and think I'm full of myself. It's for the kids.
I think regardless of the culture that you're in, Polish, Ukrainian, Mexican, Jewish, be proud of it, because there's so much value that you get from that. And if you don't have much, to have that culture, and I think it's so important, to your point, to be the person perpetuating good and be proud, and that's going to be the foundation that ultimately allows for greatness.
That's, to me, I want to fix the problems that I had when I was young. That's the only thing I'm not going to fix the problems the world has. That's not my point. That's up for the next generations of Mexicans to figure out. Like, I really fundamentally believe my one and only purpose in life is to radicalize my people, to wake up to the fact that greatness is already within them. They just have to believe that they can achieve it. So it is my responsibility to manifest. It is my responsibility to talk about the wins. It is my responsibility to show by example what you can fucking achieve, and that you can live your worth. You can be, having a very nice life for the fucking shit you work so fucking hard to do.
Like, be yourself. Don't try and be somebody else. And what I learned going back and finding yourself in your journey, as I did, like, I realized it was my superpower just to be myself. That's it. Like, don't try and be what the VCs think you are, the investors think you are, what you think your customers think you are, what your family, your friends. Just be yourself. And, that's how you become the icon. Like, I want to be like Ruben, because you defined, and all you did was be yourself. And that's what you're trying to tell people. Be yourself, live your truth, and whatever it is, you deserve it. And I think that's a beautiful message.
I mean, you answered my last question, basically, which was, what is 17-year-old Aristotle? What is that piece of advice of core values to have to be able to make it in the face of adversity?
I would say, going back to the quote, in life, all you need is one person to believe in you. And so find that one person. And sometimes you have to look in the mirr.
Yeah, you do. Damn, bro. I have to cry about. That's true. Is this what ayahuasca feels like? Just like,
That's a whole different conversation. That's a big, truthfully, one thing I will say just on that note is, whatever it is, explore what these things can do. And if you have a hard time, getting out of your own way, this might bring some healing and some perspective.
Yeah, I think that's a good ending note. Clarity. That's a keyword that I will keep with me from this conversation. Clarity is one of the most valuable things of being a founder, a successful human, husband, brother, business, entrepreneur. And clarity is a luxury. When you start seeing shit with a very clear lens, everything kind of melts away, and you figure out your purpose. You figure out that everything that's supposed to be good to happen for you starts happening. So I take that keyword, very deep into my psyche now. So thank you very much for the insightful conversation. Honestly, it's been amazing. So thank you so much, bro.